So if you're just the average guy, maybe woman, and maybe you're a NASCAR fan, maybe you're not, but you certainly know who Tony Stewart is. And if you didn't know who he was, then you do now. And chances are, unless you're a hardcore, dirt track enthusiast, if you're just a regular dude, let's say you're the regular 40-year-old guy. I think Tony's 43, 44. Let's just say you're a guy a lot like him, but you don't come with the background of racing, and you don't really know much. Maybe you're just out slinging a hammer. Maybe you're just out there busting your ass every day, and you necessarily don't know a lot about racing or even dirt car racing in itself. And you watch Fox News. You're that average, Captain America, red, white, and blue, Chevy versus Ford, Burger King versus McDonald's, red bloody American, right wing, probably somewhat conservative, wife, 2.5 kids, $45,000 a year guy, right? Which, God bless you. But the bottom line is, you watch Fox News, you watch Nancy Grace, you don't know the characteristics of a locked rear axle, 15 inches of stagger dirt sprint car. Quite frankly, you've never been to a dirt car race. You know Tony Stewart. He seems like a pretty good guy. You've heard that he can maybe sometimes be a hothead, but you really don't know much about the guy. There's probably more Americans in that particular demographic than there are in our demographic that are very much up to speed on what Tony does, who he is, and about dirt racing.
Probably.
And so you watch Nancy Grace, and you could not turn any channel on from Sunday morning to now. Your local news, whether it be in South Bend, Indiana, or Grand Rapids, Michigan, or Sacramento, California, your local news, your national news, ESPN, Fox Sports 1, everybody, for the most part, mainstream media was saying this.
From throwing punches to throwing helmets, NASCAR superstar Tony Stewart has a reputation for rage. Allegations of plowing down pit crew members, threats to run competitors off the track, claims he shoves drivers in anger, even throwing his helmet at a car. Well, it all blew wide open Saturday night when conflict turns to tragedy. Stewart mows down fellow driver Kevin Ward Jr. on the racetrack. Now,
let me play that again for you, okay? I'm going somewhere with this. Stand by. Hold on.
Stewart night when Saturday night.
Right.
These are headlines that will make somebody sit through that 4 minutes of bullcrap CNN/headline news commercial. Catchy, splashy, embellished, untrue headlines like this.
When conflict turns to tragedy, Stewart mows down fellow driver Kevin Ward Jr. on the racetrack.
That, my friends, unfortunately for that 43-year-old guy that I just described, gets him to call into Mama who's doing dishes. Hey, Janet, get in here now. They're going to show Tony Stewart. He just mowed down a feller. That's
exactly what happens.
That's exactly what happens. Because let me tell you what doesn't garner ratings, what does not garner hype, is when she would have said, coming up next, 20-year-old guy in a modern-day road rage racing fit tries to actually jump onto Tony Stewart's race car and dies in the process. That, Tony Stewart, 100% the victim here. Manson, that doesn't get you Janet to come in from the kitchen to come in and watch through the Tampax commercials.
That gets you nothing.
That gets you nothing.
Turns to tragedy. Stewart.
Here we go. So very well written and so calculated, but could not be any more embellished and wrong.
Stewart mows down fellow driver Kevin Ward Jr. on the racetrack.
Let me play 3 different cuts from Monday. This is Monday. This is 2 days ago. Now, today's going to be one of the more pivotal days with regards to this ongoing investigation, because now there is more videos that's surfacing exonerating Tony. The one particular video that we've all been shoved down our throat now has been super slow mode. And arrows have now it's been blown up in super slow mode, and arrows have now been installed showing you, as this is super slow mode, how this 20-year-old kid did not get hit by Tony. Getting hit by Tony is Tony hitting you with his right front or the front of his car, plowing you, mowing you over, if you will, according to Nancy Grace. That's getting hit by Tony. No. This kid did not get hit by Tony. This kid, the front end of Tony's sprint car, missed him. And this kid then tried to reach in to Tony's compartment. In a split second, then changed that mentality to try to grab onto the top wing. And none of that worked out because he got caught up in the right rear, the 107-inch right rear, 107 inches tall, around by like 23 or 21 inches wide. He got sucked up into that and spit out and subsequently died on impact. That's what really did happen.
You know what sucks is that Tony Stewart has to
and he's the
himself.
Victim now.
Yeah, he has to defend himself, whether he deliberately hit this guy or not, of which he didn't hit this guy. But really, the guy was being a dick, and he has to defend himself because of this guy.
The guy's being a dick.
Because he's Tony Stewart. If it was just another race car driver.
If it was the 45-25, which was one, this would have been, the district attorney, the prosecuting would have already been able to close this. They have to keep this thing going and unturn other stones, 25, just to be able to appease the Ward family.
Yeah,
but they all know what happened. This guy leapt onto Tony's car like a monkey/Spider-Man and got caught up in it.
Yeah, and it really sucks because he died. And now, again.
And now Tony's the victim and the bad guy.
Yeah.
Man said, if you're a race car driver, you can't help who jumps on your car, and you can't help what happens to them when they jump on your car.
Nope. All bets are off.
Here's what I said 2 days ago. This was an absolute crap storm for Tony Sunday during NASCAR, and it has continued to escalate and snowball, and today will be the first day that the media members like dumbass Nancy Grace and others might have to kind of eat some crow. This is what I said Monday. And that, as you would call it, I was literally the lone wolf. Nobody was saying this Monday. The 45 comes around Monday, and damn near misses the kid. The reason why is the kid now, the Kevin Ward Jr., is trying to find the 14. And these cars are running 35 to 40 miles an hour. The reason why the 45 didn't hit him is because the Kevin Ward kid didn't reach into that particular cockpit trying to grab a hold of the 45 driver, but got close enough as he's gauging up the 14 that the 45 had to quickly swerve to the left. Isn't that exactly what this video shows, Manson?
It is.
That he's trying to initially reach in, then instead tries to grab the wing, probably to save his ass, because as he's trying to reach in, he knows he's going to get caught up in the right rear. This guy probably knows. Again, another cut from Monday, 2 days ago. There's been radio personalities now make goofy little parody songs, of which I don't agree with. I think it's absolutely horrible. But you have the right to do that. That's your opinion. I do the same thing. But I usually know the circumstances. Manson, when we did one of the most egregious over-the-top deal, and that's Casey Anthony in the trunk, we truly, and it was very shocking, or Richard McTeer, Dead Baby, we didn't take any liberties as to what really happened. We reported what really happened. She really did put her kid in the trunk and bake the kid to death, and Richard McTeer really did throw the baby out of the window.
Yeah, it's just the truth.
Other radio personalities in this town just trying to take an anti-Bubba stance, because it seems like the new cool thing within my own world now is just to go completely opposite of me, which is about the most unhealthy thing you could do, is to get civil war amongst your radio station. And I have zero idea why it's happening, but it's not going to end well. It never does. And listen, Monday, this is Monday. This is Monday, ladies and gentlemen. I'm probably one of the very own places in the media that's not taking the most sympathetic stance as others are with this particular Ward guy. This guy reached inside Tony's compartment, Tony gassing it up is not an admission of trying to hit him. It's an admission of trying to get out of the way if you knew how these cars... Again, Monday.
Yep.
Monday. Cars handled. Because I knew. I had talked to people. And I'm just disturbed.
Yeah. I mean, think about it.
Oh, I thought that was you live. This is another cut. Monday. This is my last cut from Monday. And Manson, I say, additional footage will come out showing that he reached into Tony's car. I'm not trying to pound my chest, but this is one of the biggest stories in the world right now, Manson.
Everybody's jumping to conclusions.
I was right.
No, I mean, listen, I hate to be a dick, which means I'm fixing to be a dick. Anytime I anytime I pre-warn you guys, I don't mean to be a dick. It means I'm getting ready to be a turbo dick. But here's the deal. You tell me of any other person in the media, whether it be electronic, television, or spoken word radio, or blog, or Twitter, or Facebook, or anybody. You tell me of any other person that publicly got on the air and said the kid was trying to reach in on Tony, and additional footage will show that soon. Manson, you've been keeping up on this story. Did you hear that anywhere except here?
No, not even close.
And I caught so much crap from the people saying, you know what, why don't you go ahead and kiss Tony some more? They didn't really say that. And say, why don't you suck this some more? And why don't you do that some more?
And
you know what? You're
a
complete fat ass. You know what? If Tony Stewart could go kill a guy in broad daylight, you'd stick up for him?
At most, Tony Stewart, he had 2 seconds to respond to whatever.
This is the last cut from Monday. I have a couple things for you to think about that I like to bring up. We're going to go through on the air the additional footage. It's now on BTLS Radio. I tweeted it as well last night. I also have some things for you to think about as well. I'll take your phone calls. Ladies only ticket window for Rays Yankees tickets and top 5 country countdown all coming soon. If.
It was just like, bam, this guy's on.
This is from Monday. This is the last cut from Monday, 2 days ago, of us telling you, wait for it. Wait for it. Don't knee jerk on Tony Stewart. Don't knee jerk on this guy. This guy, I'm even going as far as to saying that Tony Stewart is the victim here. Kevin Ward Jr. determined his own fate in life Saturday night at about 11:30 at night when he grabbed on to Tony Stewart's car. I'm not saying it's coming from that Alernia file, but it kind of is.
Everybody cuts their own deal.
He can't be the victim now. He's dead. He's dead because of his actions. The victim now is Tony Stewart, who will be tried in the public court of opinion, who will be tried with corporate America, who will be tried by the media, who may have to write some stuff. I hope that his advisors, Mike Arney, Eddie Jarvis, Brett Fruit, I hope Zippy, I hope all of you guys realize that the racing community and the average guy out there, when they continue to see this evidence, would not want you to write a settlement check for these people. This kid determined his own destiny. The gentleman that you guys all handle and love so very much, Tony Stewart, is the victim here. If properly handled, he can be positioned that way. Do not write this family a check.
I think people hate Tony Stewart just like that too, though. Like, they look for him to do bad, in the media and in sports. They pay more attention to when
he didn't do anything bad here.
I know, but that's what I'm saying.
They just jump on it.
They look to jump on it because when I first heard about the crash, I really thought that Tony Stewart
mowed him
ran
down
right into him.
Right. Guys on me, what do I do? I'm going to gas it up to try to get my car to dart left. The kid is now at my right front, and he's reaching in on my cockpit. Manson, Monday. This came down Monday.
That's right.
When this footage wasn't even available, because I knew if they find any additional video, you will find, listen to this, guys, this is very important, that the kid just wasn't let me tell you what the kid wasn't doing. He just wasn't standing there minding his own business, waiting for the cars to dart by for him to flip Tony 2 double tall mans. He was not just standing there a couple feet off the race line with his helmet off so that he could chuck his helmet at Tony's car. That's not what he was doing. Monday. This is Monday, mind you. What he was doing and what the sheriff officials and prosecuting, possibly persons that could be prosecuting these things know, that this particular video does not show, but hopefully others will show, and other eyewitnesses have testified to, is the kid was going in and out, gauging, if you will, gauging up. Manson, much like how you gauge up how to jump in when you're jumping rope, like double dutching.
Yeah.
You know how you're gauging the rope up? The guy was gauging. You can see his body language by attempting to just try to time it so that he comes in after the 45 car and jumps in or grabs in on Tony's cockpit. That's what you don't know, is that he just wasn't sitting there patiently, zippity-doo-dah, zippity-dee, waiting for the 14 to come around so that he could throw a dirt clod at the guy or he could throw his helmet. He was gauging, double dutching, if you will. Mind you, this is Monday, 2 days ago, when it was not the most popular stance, and people thought, Manson, that I was just trying to lick Tony's butt and just kiss his ass. I was trying to be a spin master, if you will, a crisis control expert. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I mean, I think any rational person watches that video from the first time, even the first video, you're like, well, look at this guy. He's being a real dick. Oh, he got run over. That's life.
Took a lick.
Tony Stewart was
playing Frogger with sprint cars.
He was just out there doing basically his job.
Right.
He didn't go to the track to run over somebody.
He could dart into Tony's path, hopefully the cockpit, and light Tony up. Now, that in itself, if you know anything about sprint cars, you got the headers right there by the cockpit. You got a very, Manson, you've got in and out of a sprint car. You got a very small window to even think about. And intensify that by the right side. Right, in the right side, you virtually have no window.
Yeah.
You have a right side headrest. You can't get in that car.
You can't see.
No, you can't. And you got the right rear with no fender, an open-wheeled 108-inch right rear that's just eating dirt, that's going to possibly eat your body, which it did, if you illy time it. And that's what happened. That's why this story doesn't have legs. You people this is Monday. Listen to this. National media are trying to make this story have legs at the expense of a person that means a lot to me, that quite frankly didn't do anything wrong. You think that any of them, Manson, will change doing a 180 now and say, now additional footage that's been slowed down, more to come? And the sheriff's department continues to state that Tony Stewart is not a suspect, that this is completely not his fault, basically saying that Kevin Ward did it to himself. Do you think that the Nancy Graces and the other people, historically they just move on and hope that people forget? Nobody will say we made a mistake, and Tony Stewart's not a bad guy.
That's not interesting.
That's not going to make Janet come in from doing dishes now, is it?
Nope.
He didn't do anything wrong at all. Nobody's going to report that. Yes, I do have some sympathy for the family. I wouldn't want anybody to lose their son in any capacity with any sporting event. But when your son did what your son did, I'm not taking quite as soft of an approach as the rest of the worldwide media is. Shannon, hello.
Hey, how's it going, Bubba?
Good, sir. How are you?
Pretty good. I just wanted to give you my opinion. It's sad that what happened, he lost his life. But, if he did what he was supposed to, they tell you to stay in the car until emergency will get to your race car. He wouldn't be dead right now.
You're right. I mean his actions controlled his destiny. And the only time on a racetrack, as you know, racing at East Bay, say hi to my boy Al, unless your car's on fire or mechanically not safe, you stay in it or in very close proximity until they clear you, period.
Exactly. And if you watch the video, I can't tell, but it doesn't look to me like Tony even touched him, whenever they were going around the corner and he got into the wall. Sometimes you just got to let off and say, hey, man, I'll get you next lap.
You're right. You got to cross-move Willie or you're going to take a lick, period. Go to my website, btls.com. It's the #1 rotator. Again, btls.com. I got the super slow-mo deal with the Aero tutorials, and it virtually just absolutely solidifies everything that I've been saying. This guy did not get hit. He grabbed onto Tony's moving race car and got sucked under the tire and spit out. That's on him. Brad, hello. Brad, Terry, Mike, Jennifer. I got a bunch of other stuff to handle as well. Brad, hello.
Morning, Bubba. Morning, guys.
Thank you, sir.
I'm that guy you're talking about. I'm 30 years old. I know nothing about racing whatsoever, but I do know Tony Stewart. I saw the video Sunday morning after I woke up, and I was like, wow, I can't believe he hit that guy. But then I listened to you Monday morning, Bubba, and, what you said made perfect sense. And when I got home Monday night after work, I watched the video again, and I was like, you know what? Bubba is exactly right.
So, Brad, you're that average guy. You're that average guy that I described. But doesn't really know much. And these are the headlines that you had shoved down your throat.
Stewart mows down fellow driver Kevin Ward Jr. on the racetrack in front of thousands and caught on YouTube.
That's what you hear. Because that's what Nancy Grace mouth gagged you with, and that's what you think Tony Stewart's the biggest dick ever to live, and he mowed down a guy on the racetrack in front of thousands. Period. That's all that you know because you're Jerry, not really paying attention, don't know a lot about this.
Exactly.
And you know what? So listen, go to BTLS.com, watch the video. It's been super slow-mode, and it 100% validates everything that I've been saying since Monday. And more importantly, Brad, thank you for listening. And having an open mind about everything that the media tells you. Listen, there is no headlines, and you don't sell any newspapers per se, using an old-time expression, when Tony is portrayed as the victim here. You don't. It's not good, sensational TMZ-type journalism. Making Tony the big bad wolf is what they have done because they get far more mileage and sensationalism out of that than being truthful. And far too often, it happens to everybody. It's happened to me. Brad, thank you, buddy.
No problem.
Terry, hello.
Hey, how you doing, Bubba?
Good, sir.
Now, when I first heard this on the radio through the news, it sounded like Tony was literally running him down. But when I saw the video, I realized this guy was just trying to commit suicide. I mean...
Stop calling me on the phone, you mother...
Listen, I'm not going to take it that Kevin Ward wanted to kill himself, my friend. His actions did end up controlling his destiny, but it was in the it was
in the heat of a moment. In the heat of the moment,
it was
like
a sporting event.
It's a competitive event. That is what race car drivers do. This is not a sport where the guys crash their cars and they just say, "Hey, it's okay, buddy. Don't worry about it." They get pissed off and they go at the other driver. You see it all the time in videos.
Was not death by race car, you idiot. Mike, and then Jennifer, I have two other things I'd like for you to consider. I'll get to them next. Mike, hello.
Hey, Bubba, what's up? It's sad that people like Nancy Grace reported that way because, like the other guy said, when you watch the video, no matter who you are, it's very clear the idiot was out running around on the track in front of cars. So, but that people watch it and believe it without even questioning it. They go, oh, Nancy Grace is a credible source, and I'm just going to believe it.
I agree. And thank you so much. Last call. I got a couple other things to handle. I got a ladies-only ticket window for Rays Yankees tickets. I got the top 5 country countdown and a bunch. Jennifer, hello.
Good morning. I have a question. Has anyone looked at the statistics of the people who get on the track, like the guy with Gene and this kid with Tony, that actually get hit?
No, I don't know if there's necessarily a statistic on that. Every driver is warned, and it's just kind of common knowledge
really
that you don't get out of your car.
Yeah, because most guys don't do that.
I mean,
That's what I'm wondering, because the two that I've heard, both of them wound up getting hit by the same car that wrecked them.
Yeah, it usually never works. Listen, statistically, it never usually works out pretty good for the guy trying to be a dick at the end of the day.
Okay.
Thank you, awesome. And continue to listen because I got some great stuff coming up. So go to BTLS.com, and this is the video that I put up on my Twitter page, our Twitter page last night, BTLS Radio. As you're running around work and what have you, if you have the ability to get on Twitter, do so mobilely if you want. Follow me, BTLS Radio, as I'll have updates. I had updates all day on this, and I scored this about 7:30 last night. And to date, tell me if you agree or not, Manson. I think to date this is one of the better examples exonerating Tony, as it's been super slowed down with arrows showing you where the guy's positioned. I think this by far is the most damning evidence to Kevin Ward.
Well, before you couldn't really couldn't see the point of impact, and now you can.
No matter how much you tried to slow your video down or stop it at point of impact, you couldn't see it, could you?
No.
And so now you can. You can go to BTLS.com, my main website. It is rotator number 1. I'm watching it. Hopefully you guys actually rewind it back to 0, guys. We'll go through it on the air live. I got one other thing I want to talk about as well. Again, you can watch this at BTLS.com. And it's titled Kevin Ward Jr. grabs wing and is not sucked under as everybody thought. Here we go. I'm at 01. So it shows him. It's slowed down now. I'm at 5. 45 passes him. Now it's super slowed down. I stopped it at 9. And it shows at 9 seconds, it shows that Tony has cleared him. The impact was not on Tony's front area of the sprint car or even his right front. It showed Tony has cleared him now at 9 seconds. If you take it to 11, where the very first arrow comes out, there's an arrow that comes out. Stop it at 11 if you can. And it shows now, at this point, the car is almost by him.
Yeah, he's hanging on the side of it.
At this point, if you stop it at 11 seconds, and it's kind of tough to see, but you can see it, Kevin Ward now is hanging on the top wing. It continues to show him hanging on, then falling off and rolling to where he ended up finally, stopping. This by far, Manson, as much as the national media played that first video that made Tony look like a buffoon.
Yeah.
Don't you think that everybody should play this?
Well,
because this is a continuation of the story in itself, right?
Why didn't the national media slow this down in the first place?
You mean Sunday night?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Why is it taking until Tuesday night, Wednesday?
One of the greatest dirt track announcers ever. And I happen to be so very lucky as to have him be the dirt track announcer at Bubba Raceway Park. My boy Joe Dirt Sr., if you will. There is a junior, one of his spawns, if you will. Got a little bit of a mouth on him. What's up, Joe Dirt Sr.?
There is a JDJ, but he loves you as well.
I love that big lunkhead. Anyway, go ahead, buddy.
Hey, speaking of sprint cars, Joe Dirt Jr. He doesn't even need the record. He just picks them up. But look, I just want to weigh in, Bubba. Kevin Ward Jr. created a 100% avoidable tragedy, and that's all there is to this.
And what's so sad, Joe? and what's so sad is that for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, maybe even today, Tony Stewart's the bad guy. He's the boogeyman. He's the guy that, as Nancy Grace would say, mowed over, a fellow race car driver in front of thousands, if you will. This guy, Tony, has been absolutely railroaded as a monster. Hold on.
Tragedy. Stewart mows down fellow driver Kevin Ward Jr. on the racetrack in front of thousands.
When that couldn't be anything further from the truth.
Imagine waking up to that every morning.
Yeah.
Were there really thousands at this track?
Oh, yeah, there was. I mean, there was probably 3,000 or 4,000. Joe, continue on. I'm sorry.
No, and that's all I just wanted to just kind of say. I mean, this is kind of like the same situation that you see all the time promoting your own dirt track. You do something just a little bit in the spotlight or controversial. Tony Stewart's going through the same thing that you're going through, certainly on a different level.
Volusia, the racetrack over there, they can rain out, and they cannot honor your pit pass for this weekend. They're going to do double features, but you got to pay it again to get in, and everybody thinks that they hung the moon. If I was to do something like that because of who I am, I'm the biggest dildo ever to live, period, and people will never come to my track again.
That's exactly right, and it's simply because of who you are and who Tony Stewart is.
Let me try to pull that, Joe. Let me try to pull that off. We rain out this weekend, and then next weekend I'm going to do double features. But I'm not going to honor your pit pass from this weekend. I'm going to double charge you.
Right.
Let me do that. Let me see how that works out for me.
I'll tell you, Mr. Sponge.
I can tell you how it works.
Quite the name for yourself.
They'll burn the place down.
Hey, I'll see you guys Saturday morning for the Bikes for Badges.
You going to bring that little 79 rice burner, that Kawasaki, that 76?
1977 KZ650 custom model. It's gorgeous.
It's actually fairly rare, ain't it?
Yes, it is very rare. It's the C model, only made for about 6 months. So I mean, she's very significant indeed.
You can be my bitch, as you'll be behind my badass soft tail, courtesy of Jim's Harley. So, all right, buddy.
All right, see you later.
See you Saturday morning for the Bubba's Bikes for Badges. One thing I want to leave you with. This is my last thing in closing, and then I got to move on. I've said what I was going to say with regards to defending my good friend Tony Stewart. And yes, I am defending him somewhat out of friendship. But I'll tell you right now, whether this was Steve Kinzer or Donnie Schatz or Joey Saldana or anybody that I knew that raced sprint cars, Kerry Mattson, Didn't matter. Sport Allen, Robbie Smith. Manson, if this was any other sprint car driver and this very same scenario happened, I would be sticking up for them as well, because right is wrong is wrong.
Yeah.
And the driver, although the driver happens to be a very dear friend of mine, Tony Stewart, the driver at this point, no matter whether it's Robbie Smith or Tony Stewart, is the innocent party and is being made to look like an absolute monster. And it's just not right. This is a classic railroad job. Classic. And so I want to leave you with one final thought for everybody that's listening, as various radio personalities are playing goofy little Tony Stewart as a murderer songs. Don't you think that could be problematic legally, couldn't it? I mean,
calling him a murderer?
I mean, he's not a murderer.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about slander and defamation. Anyway, make a long story short. As you hear all the bad things about Tony, and everybody wants to bring in his past, don't you think all of us, Tony Stewart's, I think, 43, 44 years old. I'm 48. I often cringe at some of the things that I did when I was younger. Don't we all?
Yep.
Probably with the exception of Ned, we all are remorseful for some of the idiotic, bone-headed things we've done.
I don't regret a thing.
Especially, Manson, if you're a public figure. And so Tony Stewart, what makes Tony Stewart, and why he is arguably one of the greatest race car drivers ever to live, is because Tony Stewart won't cut you any slack on the track. Tony Stewart's going to drive you hard. He's going to lean on you. He's going to grind on you. Rubbin's racing. Tony Stewart, whether he's racing a bar stool, a moped, or a sprint cup car, he's going to race you hard and clean, but hard. That's what makes him. Tony Stewart has a little bit of a short fuse. That's what makes him Tony Stewart. That's what makes NASCAR so successful, which they've gotten away from a little bit. You know what put NASCAR on the map was the 1979 February live broadcast on CBS. In 1979, America was facing one of the biggest winter storms ever, and it was the first year that a major network showed the Daytona 500 live. It was the first year ever. They'd done a tape delay prior. So all of America in the Northwest is snowed in. Remember, Manson, back in 79, you got 3 channels?
Yep.
CBS, NBC, ABC. That's it.
That was it.
Fox wasn't around. Cable wasn't around. So, I don't know, almost the entire Midwest is snowed in, and they now have nothing to watch except the 1979 live Daytona 500. And going into turn 3 before the tri-oval, the Allison boys and Cale Yarborough got into a modern-day shootout on the white flag, and they all ended up collected. I think maybe the first 3 guys ended up collected down in turn 3. And if you remember, it's classic footage. Ned, I think you were drunk in the infield that year.
Oh, I was.
And
awesome.
Cale Yarborough and the Allison boys are swinging helmets and hooking it out like a bunch of hillbillies, and America was hooked, right?
Yep.
Like, oh, my God. This Southern track high-stakes racing, I never knew such a thing existed. That was virtually the commercial birth of NASCAR. And NASCAR subsequently has gotten away from that until about 2 or 3 years ago. And the president of NASCAR, Mike Helton, came out. And if you guys remember 25, they said, get after it and handle it the way you need to handle it, right? Encouraging more on-track incidents. Not getting out of your car and trying to Spider-Man onto a man's hood. But, you know, some pushing and some shoving and some stuff like that isn't bad for the sport.
Pull some Gene Lasker type stuff.
Yeah, some Gene Lasker dick type moves.
Yeah.
Well, nobody gets hurt. Obviously, if you're in Martinsville or Bristol and your car gets put in the wall on the high side, they're not going to want to have you run down the banking and try to Spider-Man on the side of a guy's car. But throwing the helmet at him or meeting him in the pits and giving him a little what for is kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge what NASCAR has been advocating. Well, Tony will certainly not have a problem with that, and he's been to the forefront of some of those excursions, if you will. But that's what makes Tony Tony. That's what makes Tony Tony. But you cannot use that all against him while describing this particular incident. Let me just give you the example of Nancy Grace again. This is how they open up. Every little minor little skirmish that he's ever been involved now is now coming back 180 to shove right up his ass just to make him look like even more of the monster on this particular tragedy that happened last Saturday night, of which he had nothing to do with.
From throwing punches to throwing helmets.
Of which, back to my original fragmented thought, and that is, we've all done. I'm sure that there's a portion of these particular things that they're describing that Tony's not necessarily proud of. We've all grown up, so to speak. And so, Manson, I mean, that would be like if we would do something boneheaded. They wouldn't say, the Bubba the Love Sponge show, who raised, $22,000 this past weekend for fallen FHP trooper Chelsea Richards' 4-year-old child. No, that's not what. If we had a scrape in the law this past where we did something stupid, it would be Bubba the Love Sponge, who was sentenced, was on trial for killing a hog and for
always is.
Doing this and doing that, and had no panties Thursday, and was sued by fellow radio personality Todd Schnitt for $1 zillion.
Largest fine in history.
The most controversial shock jock in the history of American radio, the largest single one-time $755,000 fine. Bubba's a bad boy. That's how they would spin me, just like they're spinning Tony.
NASCAR superstar Tony Stewart has a reputation for rage. Allegations of plowing down pit crew members, threats to run competitors.
Allegations, Manson. not hard facts.
Not facts.
Allegations.
Off the track, claims he shoves drivers in anger.
Claims.
Even throwing his helmet at a car.
At a car?
Well, it all blew wide open.
So what they didn't say, and what they should open up with today, but they won't. Even my boy Marty Smith from ESPN should, but won't.
I think Fox News was on Tony Stewart's side.
John Boy and Billy, all these guys that are, so supposedly so NASCAR friendly. What they should do is, hello, it's Marty Smith live from ESPN and Tony Stewart, ladies and gentlemen. You mean the Tony Stewart that's got the Tony Stewart Foundation? Whose mission statement right on the website when you go to Tony Stewart Foundation.org is the mission of the Tony Stewart Foundation is to raise and donate funds to help for the care of children diagnosed with critical or chronic illness, animals which are at risk or endangered. And the most important part of all, this has been around since 2000 or 2001. The final sentence of Tony Stewart's foundation mission statement, pay attention. And for drivers injured in the sport of motor racing. That's Tony Stewart's mission statement. Tony Stewart's foundation rescues racehorses, rescues greyhounds, takes care of critically injured children, donated 5 states, New Mexico, Georgia, Minnesota, Indiana, Kentucky, 5 different states. Their canine units were outfitted at $835 per dog, bulletproof and stab-proof vests, courtesy of the bad guy, the dick, that mows over men, Tony Stewart Foundation. Manson, nobody's going to open up with that now, are they?
Zero.
Tony Stewart Foundation actually writes checks to race car drivers that have hurt themselves. And I didn't ever disclose this because I didn't use, and I'm going to kind of put myself over a little bit. But when Nicole Johnson died at my racetrack, Manson, me and Tom Bean paid for her funeral arrangements personally. I don't know if you guys knew that or not.
No.
The family could not afford it. So I and my partner, Tom Bean, paid for Nicole Johnson's viewing, her casket. We paid for everything. And it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, it is.
I swear on my son's life, and it was because, it was like $15,000, and we were able to, I was in a position to be able to handle that. Do you know who called me and offered to pay for it, courtesy of his foundation? Tony Stewart.
Tony Stewart.
Tony Stewart called me personally and said, hey, get a hold of my mom because his mom's the one who's run this foundation. If you need money to take care of the arrangements for her, we got you. I said, Tony, you know what? I thank you. But I think me and Tom's got it right now. He said, if indeed, let me know. The dick, the bad guy, public enemy number 1. Go to TonyStewartFoundation.org to learn more about this boogeyman, this dick, this guy who mowed over a race car driver. The media just absolutely is pathetic. Doesn't just the more that things like this to us and to this guy happens, doesn't it just, Manson, make you just want to hate mainstream media and not believe really virtually that you almost have to like research what they're telling you?
Because they don't tell you, they don't research anything. They don't do any reporting. I mean, look, the video that Slow Down shows you, it took 2 days for some probably guy on YouTube to do that when they should have been right in there analyzing the video. They don't do any journalism at all.
Every one of you son of a bitches should apologize to this guy. He's the victim. And he will have to live with this for the rest of his life, being called a murderer. And the polarization. You know, there's probably a certain amount of people that used to like Tony now that don't, because they've not got to the bottom of this. They've only listened to fat asses like Nancy Grace shove this down their stupid 95 IQ ass.
Saturday night, when conflict turns to tragedy, Stewart mows down fellow driver Kevin Ward Jr. on the racetrack in front of thousands.
Top 5 countdown next.
For your information, that was not radio shtick.
Oh, that's really good.
More of the Bubba Radio Network after this.